On Friday's video report, I told you that there were 4 games on tap last night, a couple of good ones with Duke, Miami of Florida, and USC, Washington State, and a couple of bad ones that you really didn't want to watch, Nebraska, Illinois, Utah State, and BYU. But after hours of research, hours of handicapping the games, I didn't know which way to go. And sometimes that happens as a gambler, as a handicapper. You can do all your homework, do all your handicapping, and you still don't know which way to go. But vanity should never get in your way. As a handicapper, as a guy who's been on radio and TV for years, who had his own tip sheet, who had his own nationwide sports talk show, you can have an opinion on the game, but sometimes there are games that you just shouldn't bet. So instead, after knocking myself out over these games, I decided, hey, let me look at the baseball card. And there it was. The game at Fenway between the Red Sox and Astros. I mean, I looked at that game for about 30 seconds. I saw who was pitching, Charlie Morton for Houston, Doug Fister for the Red Sox, and that game jumped off the board. It was screaming, bet me, bet me, bet me, and I'm telling you, when that little voice goes off in my ear, I don't have to do anything more. And that was it. I wish I'd looked at the baseball card before I looked at the college football card, because I would have saved myself probably 4.5 hours of time. So instead, as I told you, I gave you my opinion on Washington State and USC. I told you I thought maybe the Trojans were the play. How did that turn out, huh? As they lose the game outright. And instead walked away with another top-rated 15-time winner as my best bet last night, as the Red Sox lost and the Astros delivered for me 3-2 at Fenway. And that's the way it goes sometimes. You never can let vanity, thinking that you know it all, get in your way. And as a guy who's been on TV and radio for the last 15, 20 years, as a guy who had his own nationwide tip sheet, a guy who had his own national sports talk show, talking gambling, believe me, I can have an opinion on every single game, but that doesn't mean I really love these games. And that's what matters most when you're putting your money down. So, thanks to last night's win on the Astros, I've now won 11 of the last 15 days. And as I've told you many times, my top-rated play is always a 15-dime release. I have a very narrow rating system. I'm not one of these guys, hey, I've got a 500,000 star play today because tomorrow I'll have a 9,100 million star play. Oh, my God. I have 5-dime plays, 10-dime plays, and 15-dime plays because I want a narrow margin so you know when you get my play exactly how much I like the play. But I've also told you repeatedly that you know as well as I do that when you're winning, that's the time you press the action. You don't walk away from the table when you're on a roll, right? That's when you press because you've accumulated wealth. You're playing with somebody else's money. And that what better time to press the action? So I've now won 11 of the last 15 days. Again, a 15-dime play like last night's on the Astros is my top-rated play. So today I'm going to press the action because I found one game on the college card that I love. It's a home team that I think is going to win by at least 3 touchdowns. So today, for only the 6th time ever, I have a 20-dime play in college football. That's right, number 6 ever. And I love the play. Now, this does not mean that you go out and take a second mortgage. This does not mean you take those funds you've set aside for your kids' college education and bet it on the game. This does not mean you take the mortgage payment and take it away and from your wife where she's hid it and go and bet it on the game. No, it simply is my way of telling you that if you've been with me for the last couple of weeks and you've won 11 of the last 15 days as well, you've accumulated a little bankroll, you've been with me for the dance, and you bet a little more on the game. If you haven't been with me, then you have to play according to your own personal bankroll allocation. And remember, as I also say, the only way you get into trouble gambling is if you bet more than you can afford to lose. It sounds strange, but it makes sense, right? If you never bet more than you can afford to lose, you never get into that deep financial abyss from which there is no escape. So, today, the 6th ever 20-dime play of my career, it goes on the mid-afternoon card. And by the way, it also happens to be a half-price play of the day with the coupon code. Are you ready? This is a difficult code. It's the word half, H-A-L-L-F. Oh, by the way, this being Saturday, you know the drill. You can save 24% on your total purchase price by using the coupon code 24%, 24%, Sing it after me, 24%. And that is a mix and match coupon good for any combination of picks and or packages from any of the handicappers here at the site. The only disclaimer is it's a one-time usage coupon, which means you got to put everything in your shopping cart at one single time in order to maximize your savings. So it could potentially save you hundreds of dollars off your total purchase price. And if you ever have any questions, you can always contact customer service. I probably do that even faster if I hadn't done that for the past year or so. So I'll have to practice. Let's get to your complimentary plays. There are 3 games I like tonight. I'm going to run them in reverse chronological order. The first game, I like UNLV. Yeah, and that's not something I've said too many times here on the video report. I like UNLV minus 14.5 at home tonight against San Jose State, a game that is just going to be the game everybody in college football is going to be talking about today. Now, the Rebels, of course, are coming off a 54-21 loss at Ohio State. No big surprise here. When's the last time the Rebels were at Sam Boyd Stadium? One of the biggest, trashiest stadiums you'll ever be in college football. Off of Boulder Highway actually not in, I guess it's in Las Vegas, but it's closer to Henderson. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's a Circle K, like diagonally across the street. That's about the highlight that I can tell you. Okay. But last time they were at home, they, of course, were a 45-point home favorite, and they lost to that noted college football powerhouse, Howard, 43-40. So let me just tell you, this is their next home game since that debacle. After that game, they went to Idaho. They went outright, 44-16. Then, of course, they lost to Ohio State, and they should lose to Ohio State. To my way of thinking, Tony Sanchez, who is trying to rebuild this program, he has got to have a big win tonight. And it has to be impressive tonight because he was building some momentum with this program. But that momentum went out the window when you lose to Howard laying 100,000 points, okay? You've got to win tonight, and you've got to win big, and you've got the perfect team coming in San Jose State. This is a San Jose State team that has played every single week of the season so far. This is a San Jose State defense that has played more snaps, 441, than any other Division I school in the country. UMass is number 2 at 359. San Jose State's been on the field 441, their defense. And I think the key here tonight is the Rebels' number 1 running team in the nation. Did you know that? No, you did not. They lead the nation, averaging 292-plus yards a game. In the win at Idaho, that's how they won the game. They ran for 357 yards, average over 7 yards per carry. So I think that's their MO tonight. They're going to run the ball relentlessly against San Jose State, and I think they're just going to wear the Spartans down. Listen, San Jose State is coming off a 61-10 loss at home to Utah State. How did Utah State win that game? They ran the ball relentlessly. Utah State, not necessarily an offensive powerhouse either, right? But they have a mobile quarterback. They run a little bit of a veer option. And they accumulated 589 total yards in that game, the Aggies did, and 318 of them came on the ground, 5.6 yards a carry. And Utah State last week was playing at home, 1-4 on the season, right? San Jose State, they lost 54-16 at Utah. They lost 56-0 at Texas. San Jose State has also won 7 straight games in this series, each of the last 4 years. I think this is a great spot for UNLV. And again, the Rebels have to win big in order to get some of their little fan base back to believing. And I think this is a great spot to jump on them here tonight. Your next complimentary play. I like Kansas State coming off a bye where they have just been like money in the bank. You know, they have covered 9 straight games coming off a bye. Last time they played, they went on the road at Vanderbilt. Poor effort, 14-7 losses, a 4.5-point road chalk 2 Saturdays ago. Coming back today at home, minus 14.5 points against Baylor. Now, they got off to a 2-0 start at home in Manhattan, beating Central Arkansas 55-19. You, me, and 7 other guys beat Central Arkansas. They also beat NC Charlotte 55-7. Baylor, 0-4 start. You know the deal with Baylor and why they're 0-4. Lost to Liberty as a 33-point home favorite at home. Lost to Texas San Antonio at home. Lost to Duke. Last week at home, though, they gave Oklahoma a good run for their money as a 28-point home chalk dog. They lost that game 49-41, but their defense allowed 625 yards. Now, last year, Baylor was a better team. But Kansas State went into Waco as a 1.5-point underdog and won that game 42-21. Here's why I think the Wildcats are going to win this game. Baylor can't stop anybody defensively, especially on the ground. This Baylor defense allowed Oklahoma last week to run for 342 yards. Kansas State is going to be able to control the clock with its ground game. Baylor's defense on the ground is allowing opposing teams to average 237 yards a game, 5.3 yards a carry. Wildcats are averaging 230 yards a game on the ground, almost 6 yards a carry. Jesse Ertz, their quarterback, passing the ball a little more effectively this season, but also a tremendous option quarterback. I think Bill Snyder's team, coming off the bye, again, 9 straight covers, will simply control the clock and grind out the win here. It will be an ugly game. Zach Smith, the Baylor quarterback, coming off a big 453-yard effort against Oklahoma after that 3-interception performance in his first start at Duke in a road loss. Best way to keep him in check is to keep him on the sidelines. Bill Snyder, no dummy, and that's why I like Kansas State minus the 14.5 in that one. Your final play, how many times do I give you a MAC play? Yeah, we have to think about that, right? I'm going to give you one today. I like Ohio minus the 4.5 at Massachusetts. UMass 0-5. This is one of those games that you have to look at a play perspective and retrospectively. UMass, very impressive, 17-13 losses, a 28-point favorite at Tennessee last week. But let me ask you this. Were the Vols really focused on that game after they lost the previous week on the Hail Mary pass at Florida? Hell no. That's why Massachusetts was only in that game. That's the reality. And the week before, they lost 29-21 at Temple as a 14.5-point underdog. Is Temple any good? No, they got crushed at USF. We saw 43-7 in that Thursday night game. The Owls aren't any good. UMass deserves to be 0-5 because they are an 0-5 team. Ohio's 3-1. Their only loss was at Purdue. They've beaten Kansas at home. They're coming off an overtime win at Eastern Michigan, an Eastern Michigan team that had won at Rutgers the previous week, okay? The UMass quarterback, Andrew Ford, who was knocked out of the Tennessee game last week, he has been sacked 28 times. I did the math. This guy has been sacked once every 5.8 times he has dropped back to throw a pass this season. That's how bad the offensive line is for Massachusetts. The defensive line for Massachusetts can't stop anybody. The run defense for UMass is allowing 176 yards a game, 4.4 yards per carry. Ohio just ran for 197 yards against Eastern Michigan. Again, I think Ohio is a good play here because UMass, people look at what UMass did last week against Tennessee. That is a false positive. Tennessee just didn't get focused for that game. Tennessee could have, should have, and would have won that game probably by double digits easily if they were focused on the game and not focused instead on what happened to them and that horrifying loss at Florida a week earlier. Again, Ohio, Kansas State, and UNLV, and I would probably rank them. UNLV, Ohio, and Kansas State in that order. UNLV, Ohio, and Kansas State as the 3 selections today. That'll do it, and talk to you again tomorrow.